All right. We got a special edition of Clippers Talk for you today. I'm excited about this show.
Here we go, Clips fans.
Clippers Talk with Adam Osland. After every game, download every pod. Clippers Talk's the name. He's a basketball talking golden god.
New episodes after every game on demand.
Follow Clippers Talk wherever you get your podcasts.
Clippers.
You know, since we were off for a week and it was the first time for me not doing a Clippers Talk episode, I thought I'd make up for it with you guys. I got someone that necessitates appointment listening even during the canine days of the summer. So joining the show is someone with pipes and ball bearings in his throat, more golden than the Larry O.B. And he's not just the voice of the Clippers. He's a part of Clipper Nation. He's one of us. Just, he sounds way cooler and is sharper than Wolverine's adamantium claws with a deep bag of creativity on all his signature calls that make us jump out of our seats like we're one of the Bounce Bros. It is voice of the Clippers, Brian Sieman, join the show. B, how we doing?
I'm doing good. That is an intense intro. What is that music? Is that an Adam Austin special there or what?
Our old imaging guy for AM 570 and Fox Sports Radio, Bob Schmidt, I don't know, out of the blue wanted to make me an intro for Clippers Talk, and he paid somebody. This was not AI. That's like a real screamo band guy that's doing that whole intro. It's real, so I thought I'd use it every time now.
Very Slipknot.
Yeah.
I am not into that music, but very
Me neither.
New metal. I don't know. It was nuts. Very good. And I had to run to another room to get the same hat that you did so that we could be Bounce Brothers and Hat Brothers at the same time. So I feel good about this already.
Alex Webb is in here commenting on the hats. Guys, if you got questions for Brian Sieman and they're actually good, I'll read them here on the air. But I do want to start with this, as I do every summer when we have our annual, meeting of the minds here on Clippers Talk with Brian Sieman. What's it like being a broadcaster during the off season? What do you do? How do you sharpen your tools? What's the summer like?
It's great. I think I've gone over this before, but 10 years ago, I had little kids. So I was literally wall to wall all day, lunch, dinners, going places. I loved it. It was great. They're older now. They're teenagers now. And so dad is not really all that important to them. So I've got a lot of free time. I've been working on my golf swing. I go back, I watch old games. I love it. Like last night, I think it was NBA TV had the Michael Jordan 55-point game right after he came out of it. So I watch a lot of basketball still.
Double nickel.
Yeah, it was good. It was fun. And then, but yeah, no, I follow all the news. I mean, it's relaxing. I like to just, I'm a homebody. I'm not somebody that wants to go on a week-long golf vacation. I just like to hang out with my family, my wife, my boys, whenever. And, we took a couple of nice little trips, but yeah, I've been kind of focusing in on getting ready for the season. A lot of excitement, a lot of anticipation with our roster. Honestly, I feel very grateful is a good word to describe how you feel at this point in time when you can rely upon your organization to do the right thing. Black cats crossing our paths, definitely not a problem, but we have all the luck in the world. What are we worried about?
Oh my God, yes, I know. The cat's even named Kawhi because of the claws on her. No, it's actually Tuca for Biaka Batuka. I don't know if he ever played against. He was a Michigan running back in the 90s. I don't know if he ran for 200 yards on Kansas ever, but yeah, sorry about
most
the cat.
Most running backs did back in those days. Kansas was, I think, an honorary football team in the Big Eight.
Those were the days. Well, I'm grateful to have you on, and I feel the same way you do about this summer and the moves the Clippers have made here. We'll get into some of those, but I do want to go back to the end of last season. Just how do you think, big picture wise, the further we get away from the 24-25 Clippers season, how do you think it will be remembered?
My wish is that and I already did. I was good. A week or so afterwards, that we forget that Game 7 was the embarrassment that it was. Honestly, I mean it sincerely. Like it was awful, but I'm not going to let it. And I'm not one of these people. I didn't know if we could win the title. I had some serious concerns about going up against Oklahoma City in that next round. So I am usually one that it's all or nothing, and it's not okay to be just getting into the playoffs. Last year was a different one of those vibes. It was a kind of a how could they do it? You know, they were 23-16, I think, around Christmas, and it was like that was an early Christmas gift for me. We had a huge win in Memphis right before Christmas, and it was just like such a feel good year. It is going to be one of my favorite years that we were ever a part of because we just proved a lot of people wrong again. Remember that 2 years ago, everybody doubted the James Harden situation, that it wasn't going to work, but it did. And for a while, for 2.5 months, we were the best team in basketball. Last year, you know, we had moments where we looked pretty difficult and that no one wanted to deal with us in a 7-game series. I'm just going to remember it for the joy of Intuit Dome, watching the wall just become this thing that is a real entity in basketball. And I promise you, going forward, every new arena will have something like it. They won't be able to afford to have no suites like our guy can do, but it's going to be a thing. It was so much fun. It was an A+ season as far as I'm concerned, given what we had to work with and given the expectations. I hope everybody looks back and is just like, man, that was just such a great year. I want to be clear. There are years that, you know, we've had the same level of success as far as in the playoffs. And I thought, well, let's just be honest. It was the end of the 23 season was one of my least favorite years. We underachieved all year. I left with such a sour taste in my mouth, and I don't blame anybody in particular. It was just the circumstances of who's available, who was injured. So I'm not one of these always looking for the bright side of the road. Last year just happened to be one of those years that, you know, it was just awesome. And I will always remember it. The 7 games that we played, 6 games really for the Clippers. The playoff atmosphere at Intuit Dome was next level. The finish, everything. It was awesome. I will look back with nothing but happy memories.
Yeah, no doubt. I feel the same way. However, I also feel like they let one get away, obviously, in that playoff series. But the further we get away from that, the more we can just enjoy them winning 50 games while only getting Kawhi for 37 of them. The ascending Ivica Zubac year, that could be something we always remember. This is when Zoo had that turning point. There's something else, though, and this is the tough question from this past season, big picture wise, that doesn't just pertain to the Clippers. Did you watch the NBA Finals? Could you bring yourself to watch SGA and OKC win the title? It's kind of the elephant in the room. We've been talking about it a lot this summer. I can't avoid it with all the comments and questions about it and people wanting to revisit the trade. Look, my position is if you have a chance to get the reigning MVP and a guy who just finished top 3 in MVP and Defensive Player of the Year for a rookie who averaged 10 points per game, and you have to give up some first-round picks, I think that's good process. I think you do have to make that move. It just didn't work out this time. Doesn't mean it was necessarily something you shouldn't do. I think every GM in the NBA would have done it. But just what are your feelings having seen now SGA go on to win it all? It's kind of obviously a sore spot for Clipper Nation, but just I still have all the belief in the world in this front office and the direction they're going.
Look, I sometimes, and I don't have this dialogue very often anymore, but I would say, okay, let's go the other way. Let's say it was reported that the Clippers could have had Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, but they had to give up Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and you give them those rookie stats, and we thought he would be good. We thought he'd be a very good player. No one, like he's like 18 levels above where I thought. So if you told me the Clippers passed on that deal, I would say same old Clippers. Like they're the same old Clippers that were run by the guy in Malibu that didn't want to take a chance, didn't want to pay anybody, didn't want to do anything but the bare minimum. They rolled the dice. It did not work. Would you give up a player that could be really, really good, like in Shea, and give yourself 6 years, which we didn't ultimately get based off of injury, but to roll the dice for 6 years to have a championship? I mean, if we just had bad luck, we'd have at least one. Right.
Yeah.
So it didn't work out. I don't revisit it. I don't worry. Honestly, I'm over it. I approve the trade. I think it's the right thing to do. Did I watch the finals? I did. We knew that Shea was going to ultimately be like a year ago, maybe 2 years ago, we started to see, okay, this guy's going to be a next level player. Did I know that he could be the best player on a championship team? I didn't. I didn't think that. I didn't think that at any point in time until this year. I'm happy for Oklahoma City. They have really done. Sam Presti is the modern day Jerry West. I mean, he just keeps filling roles and finding these guys and making great trades, and give them all the credit. They won this through a process that they have to go through. The Clippers will not go through that same process of losing games and acquiring picks. They're going to try to stay competitive, keep the culture that it is, and keep moving forward. I agree with you 100%. Our front office, and I was mentioning that before we were rudely interrupted by your cat. Um, I just feel super grateful to work for an organization that I know, whether the move works out or not, it's thought out, it's calculated, and it goes through a process. It's not a spiteful situation where a GM, and I'm not going to name names, but it's certainly something happening in Dallas where they're going to butt heads and see, who's got the bigger ego. That's not happening here. It's going to be a process of coaches, front office, ownership, and who else is involved in that room. So I feel good about it. Yes, Oklahoma City won, and they're going to win probably a couple more in the next 5 years. But you know what? I like our position, and I will say this. In 5 years, I really believe it. We're going to have a title, maybe two. We're going to be right back in the game. We're going to be up and running again, if not this year, in a couple of years when we have all that cap space. I am positive of it. I am 100% positive of it.
And as good as OKC was winning the title this season, I still wanted to see that series between the Clippers and the Oklahoma City Thunder. We saw Denver push them to 7 games. The Clippers pushed Denver to 7 games. I know transitive property stuff doesn't exactly work. Styles make fights, but this Clippers team in particular, now moving into this summer, I'm really, really excited about, especially because one of the additions from last season was Jeff Van Gundy. I'm wondering what he can do for some of these guys they brought in that aren't exactly known for their defensive prowess, in Bradley Beal, who's had his moments at times, in John Collins. Like, this was an offseason where I think Clipper Nation, a lot of them had soured after the end of the season. They felt really good about the moves. And I'm sure you're aware, Brian, John Collins has been like a fan favorite pick to come to this franchise for so long. And now he's finally here. I'm just really excited.
I bet you, and I don't have the brain power to do it, he leads the league in trade rumors over the last 5 years. Of any other player, and it just happens that he would always be rumored to come to the Clippers. I just think it's a great fit, with Harden and then the backup Chris Paul. There's going to be a lot of fun at Intuit Dome. And you mentioned the challenge that Jeff Van Gundy will have. It's interesting. Going into camp last year, the messaging was, look, if we're going to be competitive, we have got to be competitive on the defensive side, because they didn't have Kawhi for, only 37 games. So they knew that they had to have a defensive identity. You got a lot of scoring options here. And my concern would be, can Jeff Van Gundy figure out a system? Yes. The answer to that is yes. Can he get the buy-in? Which I also think yes, but you've got a lot of offensive ability on this team. They're not going to need to be scoring games in the 90s and keeping their opponent down there. They can outscore anybody in the league when they're all on, and they will be on many occasions. So I think it's going to be a good defensive team. I think we're going to be a top 10 in both categories is what I think. You'll be a top 10 offense, top 10 defense. That's conservative. Again, barring any catastrophic injuries, which are certainly in play with the age of the team. But I think we're just going to be a better team than we were a year ago, it says a lot. And there's a chance that this season is wide open, right? Like, there's a chance that 6 or 7 teams can legit say, okay, we have an opportunity to get something done this year. The Clippers might be currently on the end of that fringe, but they're in that conversation in my mind. The West is such a gauntlet. It's going to be difficult to get out of it, but any team that gets out of it is going to have to say that, hey, that was a tough road. So we'll see. I love the depth. I love the coaching, and I just love the way the Clippers have gone about filling in the margins year after year without picks, without a lot of cap space. They just find ways to not stay competitive and have a fun year, but to be like, I don't want to deal with those guys at the playoffs type of vibe. And those are the best vibes. If you can't win it, that's the secondary thing to me, is like, don't want to play those guys in the postseason.
They're 11 deep. Some are calling them Ocean's 11, given the fact that they're on the older side. And I don't want to say band of misfits, but it's a lot of different guys coming from different places in their careers to try to come together for one single focus to win it all. We heard Bradley Beal yesterday on a news report in St. Louis, I believe, say, I'm trying to win a ring. Like, that's the goal right here. And obviously CP3 is back, and this could be his final season. You were on stage with him, kind of the fan fest, after he spoke with the media in his introductory press conference a couple of weeks ago. But because his last year with the Clippers was my first year, working with you. That was the 2016-2017 season. What were some of the thoughts that just came rushing back or flooding back when you knew he was going to be back with the Clippers?
I won't lie to you. It took a small adjustment because, and I said this with Chris in real time during the Lob City era, is when he's on your team, you love all of his little pettiness. You love it. Like, you love his competitive nature. You love that he gets under the skin. I did not love how he left the Clippers. I didn't like that dissolving of the marriage. And so then he starts doing the same things he did in a Clipper uniform. You're like, oh, this guy again. I always respected how he played. He's a competitor and he wants to win. I know that. But
King of
now,
clever.
yeah, he is the king of clever, Bobby Fischer and high tops. But he coming back now, he just brings some nostalgia, but there's gas in the tank, and they're going to be able to preserve him because this place is so deep. It was really incredible to see the reception that he got. I didn't know. I knew it would be good. I didn't know it would be like basically a 2-minute standing ovation, and you could see he was touched. His whole family was there. It was really a great moment, and you could tell, even though he started his career in New Orleans and arguably probably had his best season with the Pelicans in 07, 08, when he was, I think, runner-up for MVP behind Kobe that year.
Yeah.
I got this sense, I don't want to put words in his mouth, that this is his home. Like, this is like not LA, the Clippers are truly where his heart was. He even said at some point in time in that presser that he didn't care who was on the team. He just was trying to get back to the Clippers. He just wanted to be here with the Clippers. Being home is a big part of that. I understand that. But a guy that wants to win, he's not sitting there happy to win 15 games. But for him to want to come back to this place, a culture where he helped set it in 2011, it's taken on different forms over the years, but they continue to just find ways to have winning seasons, and he's a big part of it, and it will continue again this year.
First thing I thought of was, God bless Chris Paul, which I think is one of the greatest game winners, one of the greatest moments, one of the greatest calls in the history of the franchise. Of course, him hitting that shot over Tim Duncan in Game 7 back in 2015 with you on the radio side then. Do you know, have you thought of anything special for his first bucket back with the Clippers?
No.
What goes through a broadcaster's mind when there is some level of responsibility? You got a legacy guy like this coming back. Is the workshopping start now, or are you just going to let it happen organically?
I guess it has to start now because I had not thought of that. I mean, what I did do instead of like a call, I've been kind of racking my brain of memories that maybe weren't publicized or things that maybe were forgotten. And let's be honest, there's a new batch of fans going back to probably 2019 with Kawhi that weren't necessarily here for Lob City. There's a lot of fun stories, and I was trying to go by arena. Like, do I remember anything that happened fun in this place? And so there's some new arenas since since he left, but I'll have some good stories. I think they're fun to me anyway, and connections on how we got to where we are today. But no, it was good. It was really good. And I do remember the first time we got Chris and just feeling for the first time, and that was my 5th year, I think, with the team. So it was mid-December of 2011. We won't go into how it all happened, but the Clippers end up getting Chris Paul. And I thought, man, like, we could be a real organization now. Maybe we are legit. I was wrong, and it wasn't from the locker room, but ultimately with Chris, Blake, DJ, a few years later, we did become a legit organization. So I always have those good vibes, especially when I see DeAndre, who I still talk with every time we see him. He always comes over. You just have those fun vibes of what it was like to feel legit again and to be proud of the organization. And I was always happy to go to work back in those days, but I just knew we were never going to do much. I don't believe that anymore, but it's fun to feel those nostalgia. I'm super sentimental. So I always look back on those days with great fondness.
Do you think Chris being back with the team gives us a better shot of having Blake's jersey retired this season? That would be special.
I don't know that. I don't know where the relationship is with Blake and the Clippers. I don't, and I hate it. I hate that it's not something where, I'm going to be honest here, Blake hasn't gotten over it. And it's Blake that needs to get over it. The Clippers were the only team that were going to give him a 5-year deal. And at the time, the max amount of money you could get. He had interviews, I want to say, in Denver and or Phoenix. And it may have worked out really well for him there. That's not but he wasn't going to get this kind of money. It turned out to be a business decision for the Clippers, and one which I don't regret at all. I only am disappointed in the way the relationship is, and it may have been repaired. I don't know. But obviously there was some friction previous to wherever we are right now. I would love for that to go away. Blake, to me, is the most important Clipper. Without Blake, Chris Paul's not, giving away his no trade clause that he had from New Orleans. Blake was kind of the lightning bolt. You've got, he and DeAndre that brought in Chris, and ultimately Doc Rivers is not going to want to come to the Clippers if Blake and Chris and all those guys aren't here. And what Doc did for this organization is impossible to describe in a podcast. And so that's why I look at Blake as the lead domino. I would love nothing more for that jersey to be retired. I personally think it should be the first one, but it is what it is. But there needs to be, I would love to see Blake at games, and we'll see him a lot on Amazon Prime. I think he'll be great in that role. He's very funny, if you forgot. So that's kind of where I sit. The Lob City era is a special one, and I just wish everybody was in harmony. And they may be, I don't know.
Let's go back to the first pickup of the offseason. As the trade deadline opened that first day, I think it was 3 p.m. Pacific time, and I did like an 8-hour show here on Clippers Talk trying to document everything. But it was Brook Lopez who they brought in. Back to Los Angeles. He's a big fan of Disneyland. We know that. He was with the Lakers for one season. He was Ivica Zubac's vet during that season. Now you have those two back together. I thought this was a brilliant move, and a lot of people think that I'm some Lawrence Frank apologist. But when you look at the last two off seasons, since they moved on from Paul George, just the wizardry he has been doing in the front office to bring in guys that fit, this seems like another one that's just perfect for this team.
Every GM in the league is not immune to criticism. Not one. Every GM can face criticism, and there are moves that you can dissect. But I mean, you're really having to reach, I think, for a handful of guys, and Lawrence is in that group for me. I'm not an apologist, but to your point, Brook Lopez. Love him. Love his character. And I miss Robin as well. And I think Robin still has something to give if he wants to. Those two guys in the league at the same time are pure comedy, like literally comedy. They're different level thinkers. But, Brook Lopez is one of the best, if not the best example of grow your game or you're going to be out of the league. This was a back to the basket player in Brooklyn when he first started. And then he starts to develop a jump shot when the game starts to move out past the 3-point line. And you better respect his 3-point shooting. He's also an incredible rim defender. Different age than he was, obviously, 5 years ago. But the roles are, as you pointed out, are reversed. It's Zoo that's going to be the heavy lifter. Yeah, you might see those guys on the floor at the same time, but I doubt it's for a long stint. Brook Lopez being on this team made me smile, and I think it's perfect. I can't wait to get to know him and talk to him a little bit. I, too, am a Disneyland fan, so we'll have some common ground there. So it'll be fun, and it was a great addition. I was super fired up.
Splash Mountain and Space Mountain over here with Brian Sieman. And you got the Brookie Monster, Brolo. He's got a lot of nicknames. You mentioned the personality. It's great to have him aside from what he can do on the court. And he was a starting center averaging over 30 minutes per game last season with the Milwaukee Bucks. This is not somebody that's, I know because of his age, people think he's 37. Oh, he must be washed. Still playing at a very high level.
Yeah.
To have him as a backup is incredible for this team. Then it was, as I mentioned earlier, John Collins comes in. And this was somebody that people were, talking about on Clippers Reddit every day, the tweets I saw, get John Collins. And even Lawrence Frank talking about the move, he specifically cited the matchup against Aaron Gordon with the Denver Nuggets and how they felt like they needed more size. The timing also seems right with where his contract is at and how the Clippers are trying to line things up for 2026, 2027. But he shot 40% from the outside last season with the Utah Jazz. He's physical, can rebound, but also has those hops. Speaking of Lob City, people want to call it Lob City 2.0 with Chris back. And you got the bounce bros. But what can John Collins do for this team? And do you expect him to be in the starting lineup?
I don't know the starting lineup. There are a few variations that I've thought of. I mean, you could really have an incredible bench unit if you brought him off the bench. You could have an incredible starting five. Everything you just said, he's going to bring to the table. I mean, the athleticism to me is something that we have lacked. You know, we brought in a couple of guys in Derek Jones and obviously Chris Dunn, super athletes, super great defenders, but I don't know if either one of them are great scorers on a consistent basis. We saw it from time to time from both of those guys. I think John Collins could be a 15-point per game guy if he had those opportunities. But just the aerial threat, you know, a lob threat. And I know we joke about Lob City and it was funny and glitz and glamour and all that, but it's an important thing to have, that kind of that extra weapon with a guy that can see the floor. Which one do you want to pick? James Harden or Chris Paul? They're both going to find those guys running around the rim. It's a great pickup. It just gives us so many different looks. Just the overall roster just gives us so many different looks for a guy that can be a pretty deep thinker in Ty Lue, give us a lot of different opportunities for a bunch of different teams. But I felt like we needed to continue to get more athletic. And yeah, I know we brought in a 40-year-old point guard, but overall, I mean, we have some decent athleticism now, and I think we'll be able to be a bit of a different looking team on both sides of the ball, to be honest.
As L. Frank said, age is just a number. What are we talking about here? Come on now. You played all 82 games last season, Chris Paul. Now we move to Bradley Beal. He comes over from obviously kind of a tumultuous situation going on in Phoenix where it looks like they're half in, half out on a rebuild now. He came there to try to win a ring. The roster construction was a little bit funky, but this looks obviously like a replacement for Norman Powell in a lot of ways. First of all, Norm is one of my favorite all-time Clippers just because his level of professionalism and the way he conducted himself. And then on the court this past season, he was amazing. What can you say about Norman Powell, and what can we look forward to with Bradley Beal?
A lot. Norm is everything you just said. He's a total pro. He really takes his craft seriously. And I always appreciate guys that care about their performance as much as the fans do. And I know that sounds weird. Like, he wants to win. He wants the Clippers to be great, just like we do. He's an easy guy to talk to, gave you deep answers. Like, hey, how was your summer? He wouldn't just say good. He would break it down like, oh, I went over here and this is how I trained. I went overseas and I found gyms, and he's just a great dude. Like, I will always root for Norm, and he'll do great things in Miami. It isn't a one-on-one switch with Norm and Bradley Beal. We mentioned John Collins, so it's like you move on from Norm, who we love, but you bring in two players that are massive rotation pieces. Bradley Beal is hyper talented and probably has a different skill set, maybe a deeper skill set than Norm, in particular off the dribble with the bounce. The concern that I have for Beal is one that we have for everybody. I mean, he's struggled with injuries. I think he hasn't played more than 60 games since pre-COVID. But when healthy, this is a knockdown shooter. This is a guy that can, if they choose to stagger, the rotation, he could be one of the leaders of that second group. Bradley Beal is a guy that I've always enjoyed watching, and he's always seemed like a good guy. Like, I've always just thought he handles fan taunting very well, and he seems like a good dude, man. And I think one of the things that we're talking about is a team that's older, but other than Kawhi, I mean, none of these guys have done it. These main pieces, none of them have done it, and this is why I think it's a great thing. They all realize that this is it. Like, this is the opportunity. I know there's some contract situations where, there's free agents, and usually that can be a bit of a disaster. But at this age, I think everybody understands this is basically their last chance. It's now or never. You're going to get complete buy-in, in my opinion. So defensively, they're going to give everything they have. Offensively, they're going to share the ball, in my opinion, because they know this is it. And they're going to check their egos at the door, and they're going to do what it takes. And Bradley Beal's a big part of that.
So you mentioned starting lineups in different ways you could see it going. Give me a lineup that maybe you're looking forward to with all this versatility that they could throw out there. Because
I haven't gotten that far. I haven't gotten that far yet.
What do you think about Brook Lopez next to John Collins? You mentioned John Collins maybe being a backup. Like, Lopez can spread the floor. John Collins is your rim runner. And you just have so many ways to do this with CP3, with Beal. We haven't mentioned Bogey is still on this team right now. Like, Coach
we haven't
Lue's
even
the right
talked
guy
about
for the job.
We haven't even talked about Bogdanovich. I mean, the one thing that it's going to be interesting is that we honestly probably will not know the rotation or even the starting lineup, honestly, unless Ty's willing to talk about it until maybe one of the last preseason games. That schedule was just released today, 4 of them.
Right.
We were at training camp the last 2 years, and he had I want to say 4 groups of 5, but they were not in any order. It was like scattered. All of the talent was scattered. So there was no way to tell who was starting, who's going to be in this rotation. And I was at practice every day, and I still didn't know until it became very obvious. I think Ty had to say, these are the starters. We kind of figured it all out by the end of it all. So I don't have an idea of rotation or who's coming off the bench. I just know who's ever on the floor it's going to be a lineup that I'm super curious about. And I think we could lead the league in lineups that play more than X amount of minutes per game. And you mentioned Ty being the right guy for the job. He is. And the last couple of years, Ty, let's go back to when PG Kawhi were like healthy. Ty would like experiment, and he would experiment with lineups, and he would experiment in game. Like he would allow a team to make a run knowing what the fix is. But like he would tell me, he's like, I don't want to make the fix until after halftime. I'll let them get their lead because I know how to fix it.
That's a Phil Jackson type of move,
Guess who he played for, And then because he didn't want to play his cards, he didn't want them to have an opportunity to fix it. The last 2 years, I don't know if he's been able to do that because nobody knew what we could do. Was the James Harden thing going to work? Well, we lost 5 straight when he started. Last year, we were kind of the little engine that could. He had to do everything he could in real time to minimize damage because we just didn't know where we were going. Now he's going to have opportunities to kind of let things play out and make the chess pieces move the way he wants them to move. I think he's great at doing that. I look forward to this. The last time he had a lineup like this was that season I mentioned, 22-23. Super deep team, but because Kawhi's availability was up and down and in and out, nobody really had a defined role. That's not because they weren't told what they were going to do. It was just because they had to switch those roles all the time. PG was hurt. This, I hope, is different. I hope that we know who's available, and Ty will be able to adjust accordingly. And like I said, we're 11 deep, right? So you're going to have quality players on the floor at all times. There's no stealing minutes. You know what I mean? Like there's no let's just get to the break and, maybe we can keep this deficit inside single digits. It's going to be, it's going to be showtime, for 48 minutes as far as I'm concerned with the talent that's out there. It's just a matter of finding who fits with whom. That's all it is.
Your voice of the Clippers, Brian Sieman, is joining us here on Clippers Talk. Somebody who's very reliable, and we know what we're getting each and every time he's out there on the floor. He's rarely ever a negative. That would be Nico Batum, and he is also back with this team. I feel like he's already, and you have more perspective, obviously, than me on this, but he has become not just one of the all-time fan favorites, the Batum Battalion and everything, Batum Battalion Assemble that goes with that. But he's like all first team role player in Clippers history, maybe in NBA history. He's that good.
There is no ego with him in that he needs to be given certain things. And I talked with him. It was right before he was traded for the James Harden. We were in Hawaii for training camp, and I was just kind of asking him, how does he approach this year? And we end up talking about how, and these are his words. He's like, look, if the NBA had a one-on-one contest, I would finish last. I don't have a bag. I don't have moves. And I asked him, so I said, well, what's your challenge? Like, what do you enjoy? And I've mentioned this story before, but like, what do you enjoy when you are on the floor? Like, what motivates you? And his goal, and this is the best goal you could ever have, whether you're a star or not. He said, I want to make everybody better without having to score the basketball. My goal is to make the team better. I don't need shots. I want to do the little things, keep the ball alive. I want to tap pass back out for a 3-point shot. He just wants to do the little things. To him are big things. And I just love him. His family is awesome. His wife's great on Twitter. It's just awesome. And if you ever watch him run out of the tunnel. If you're ever there early, he'll always wait. His wife, God bless Lily, because she brings 2 very little kids to games basically every night. If you are a parent, you can understand the headaches that are involved in just getting them in the car and out of the house, let alone to sit still for 3 to 4 hours at a basketball game. But they come almost every night. It's joyful. I love it. He says he's fallen in love with LA and could consider this his home long term, like beyond his playing days. So I was so excited to see him return, and I just love him. He's awesome.
The Batums are royalty. I always love to say,
Yeah.
like that's what they are in this city. That's what they are with the Clippers here. We're lucky to have them. We're lucky to have Brian Sieman. Before we get to some of the fan questions here, Brian, coming in, I want to ask you about Ivica Zubac. Mentioned it a little bit earlier with his development this past season. I still feel like there's another gear that he can get to also at the age of 28. And now he's got Brook Lopez to learn from. It was about late 20s when Brook Lopez started to take some three-pointers all of a sudden and expanded his game. I don't know if that's in the cards for Ivica Zubac, but just how proud are you of Ivica Zubac, just the progress he has made since he became a Clipper, where he was being taken out of playoff games by Doc Rivers against Golden State. They couldn't play him. And now I think you can make the argument he might be their second most important player.
I will tell you from Lawrence Frank, how did he put it? I don't want to butcher it. James is our best player. Zoo is our most important. That's how Lawrence, I believe he put it that way. Either way, it was to say Zoo is the man. And the progress that he's made, the opportunity that he had last year, like, look, man, there's some pressure to that. And both he and Norm stepped up and just crushed it. Like, it's one thing to say, I want to do it, and then, okay, here you go. Defenses they're gonna look at you differently now, and then to deliver, it's just awesome. And he's another low maintenance guy. We saw kind of foreshadowing a little bit, and a lot of fans probably felt validated. At the start of that Dallas series 2 years ago, they went to Zoo and loosened everything up, and got a lot of good looks from the perimeter. With the 2 games that we won, I think it was because we went crazy from 3, but Zoo had a lot of hand in that. I just love him. I hope he plays every game as the rest of his time with the Clippers, and I'm just so happy for him. Low maintenance guy, easy to talk to, like Star Wars. I mean, what could you not like about Zoo? Come on.
As long as it's not the prequels or 7, 8, 9, I'm good with it.
All
right, here we go. First question for Brian Sieman here. Kai says, Brian, do you think this is our best shot at a title since 2020? Maybe since 2021 too, since it seemed like they were about to win it with it.
2021. I mean, I think we've had equal levels of shots, right? So I thought that, I thought 2 years ago, we ultimately lost to Dallas. Kawhi gets, kind of the knee inflammation on March 31st. But remember that 2.5 month window, we were literally record-wise the best team in the NBA. We had a lot of chops. We had a lot of opportunities to be great. And unfortunately, once again, the injury situation. I think this is equal to those years. And I say that as a good thing. Yes, the answer is yes. We have a great chance to do this. We got to have just bad luck. Just give us bad luck. That's all I want, is just bad, or no luck if you want to be very kind to us. We'll see how it all plays out. Oklahoma City is going to get better this year. Let's be honest. They're young, they're hungry, they're competitive. I think they're going to be a tougher out in the playoffs. But after that, the West is wild and it's open. And I feel that I don't want to be super disrespectful to the East, but I feel like the top 4 teams in the West would all be the number 1 team out East. Is that? I respect Cleveland.
Cleveland may say something, but they also have had some playoff disappointment the last 2 years. So
I respect Cleveland. I do. And I love Kenny Atkinson and love the job that he did there. He's a great coach. I just feel the West is better. I really do. Cleveland might be they would have a say in that matter. I'll give them that. But I still feel that the top 4 teams out West trump by a mile the top 4 teams out East.
And your top 4, OKC, Denver, Houston, Clippers? What do you got?
That's about it. That is it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the Lakers are like way down the plan. Where do you got?
I'm not getting into that.
All right. J-Dog wants to ask you, which Clipper game or moment was your favorite to commentate on?
That's a good question. I will say I'll give you a vintage and I'll give you a recent. the game one comeback against Memphis in 2012 and ultimately winning that series in 7 games, I lived on that buzz for 3 months, all the way until like August of that summer. It was so much fun to be a part of that. It was my first playoff series. It was wild. I mean, the games are so intense. You're just and during those games, while the crowds are as loud as they've ever been all year, and this continues, you're in such a vacuum when you're calling those games. At least I am. It's just euphoric. I don't hear anything. I'm just locked in. That's not to say we're not having fun or I'm super like intense and serious. And it's just like you're just right there. You're just locked in. It was one of my favorite moments of a professional ever. I will say that one of the best the best regular season game I have ever seen, and I can't imagine that it will ever be matched, was the last game against Golden State this year. Winner goes into the playoffs, losers into the play-in game. Ultimately, it worked out very well for Golden State. But you've got first ballot Hall of Famers, some of the greatest to ever play their positions, all in the game, all healthy and ready to go and wanting to win that game. Goes into overtime, last game of the season. It was such a thrill to be a part of that game and to get into the playoffs, just for the Clippers, knowing what was at, the expectations at the start of the year, and that nobody had this winning. I don't remember what the over under was. Was it 40 games, something like 39 games last year? I don't remember what it was. It was
I
off.
think 37.
Woof. Okay, big miss by Vegas, and they don't miss often. So that was I lived on that high for a long time. Like, it was so much fun, and I just had so much appreciation for our front office, our players, and just the entire season, all culminating in that moment. Of course, the first game at Intuit Dome in the playoffs was absolutely wild as well. So I've been very lucky that most of my time here with the Clippers has been in a winning environment. It all began with that game one comeback. They were, if you don't remember, they were down 27 in the fourth quarter, second half. They win that game in
Oh, we got that call on Clippers Rewind we use on the radio side often, Brian. I didn't forget. Swaggy P was playing for them.
Oh, that's a whole nother story. But yes,
the bearded beast. The bearded beast.
My guy Reggie Evans.
Yeah.
There was some, that series alone, I have like 50 stories from, and they were just awesome. It was just so much fun, and I've been very blessed to be here with the Clippers in this era.
You mentioned Game 82. Kawhi was so special in that game. He and James Harden were incredible. Kawhi was solid in that playoff series. He was good. That game 2 was an all-timer from him against Denver. Lawrence Frank, though, at his exit interview, made a couple of interesting comments where he wouldn't say for sure that Kawhi was, when healthy, a top 5 player, which is always something he would say. Everybody can get injured, but when he's healthy, he's a top 5 player, and that's the difference, and that's why you need a guy like that. He said there could be something to the effect of, you can make the argument, maybe he's top 10. He also brought up how him being healthy this summer could bring out the best of Kawhi, and he thinks there's another level he can get to with his athleticism, getting back to that place he was in 23-24, because he can train the way he wants to. I've been as concerned as anybody with Kawhi, with all the injuries going on and the knee flare-up, especially in the Dallas series, of where he's going to be. And now he's 34 years of age. Do you feel a little bit more confident at the moment? We'll cross our fingers, just because he did, when he came back, he played 37 games and he finished the season healthy, and that was one of his goals.
I don't know if I'll ever feel confident with an older team. Take Kawhi out of the mix. A player past 30 is always going to be a concern for me, especially one that's had injury issues. I do want to say, and I never say this during the season because I don't want to jinx it and I don't want anybody to point fingers, but I want to say the medical staff last year for the Clippers, outrageously great. Maggie Bryant leads a great team of strength and conditioning and just overall medical attention. They did such a great job with everybody, and they brought Kawhi back when he was ready to go. They had, it's frustrating. Minute restrictions suck. It sucks for the players, the coaches, the fans, but they knew what they were doing, and they brought him along slowly. Knock on wood, there were no setbacks last year. And I don't want to say it during, oh, hey, by the way, Kawhi hasn't been injured all year. What a great job by the, so that I want to be clear that I'm always thinking about those guys and the people behind the scenes that just don't get enough credit. So we'll see what happens with Kawhi. The story came out that he worked out hard until the end of the finals to make sure that his body could go through it. You love that mindset. That's
Yeah.
that's a big mindset. And I appreciate it, like to do that. So we'll see how it pays off. This will be his first off season in a long time where he's just able to walk into training camp and, participate as much as the medical staff wants him to participate, but there's no restrictions in that regard. And I'm looking forward to it. That game 2 performance was one for the ages. It was, you could just see it. And he ended up playing well. He played very good in that playoff series, but
Yeah.
that was the highlight. It was game 2 was very similar to his series against the Mavericks back in 2021, to the point where a lot of naysayers about the Clippers going into this recent postseason were like, okay, let's stop here. Maybe the Clippers are back. Every time we get hyped up, things fall apart. So I'm perfectly fine from the basketball gods and karma to just go under the radar. It's not about pressure from the players. It's just about, I just feel the external forces are sometimes working against the Clippers, but he was very, very good in that playoff series.
And let them fly under the radar, please. That's typically when they're at their best. A lot of people asking about Amir Coffey, of course, with all the puns. Now, to my knowledge, he's still an unrestricted free agent. The Clippers have a roster spot open. We'll see what happens with Amir, where he ends up. But I'm sure Brian Sieman, as I mentioned how deep his bag is, he will find plenty of puns in a player to have some fun with this season, likely one of their new guys. People asking if you've seen the schedule. We talked about the preseason schedule in here. We're anticipating the full schedule coming out tomorrow, actually. And other people are showing you love for your work on 980, the early days on the radio, talking about the Lob City days on 980. Dog Pound Gang still loves Brian for his radio calls during Lob City. Love from Jeremy in LA. Wanted to get that in there. Let's see. What else do we got? This fusion of radio and TV broadcasting is awesome. You all do so much for the Clipper Nation. Look, Brian and I worked together for 3 years. 3 years on the radio side.
That's right.
I knew him when. And to me, the greatest full-length call of a game in basketball history, in my not so humble opinion. Game 2, 2019, Clippers 31-point comeback on the Golden State Warriors. Brian.
That was another good one. Yeah.
I get chills whenever I go back and listen to those highlights. People talking about the Bounce Bros. There could be some puns for them in here. I get it, guys. The Bounce Bros. I mean, John Collins, I guess, came up with that nickname, or he and DJ had already was talked to one another. He said it.
That's going to be hard to beat. That's a tough. I'm not even. Why would you try? That's great, and it's so accurate. And there's good. I think a few years ago we were dead last in dunks, and somebody was asking me what it's like to call a game. I'm like, well, I do miss those moments, not because it's another way to punctuate a basket. Instead of layup is good, so it's fun to have that kind of moment, and it just kind of like it breaks up. I don't want to call it monotonous because I still love it, but it just breaks up the flow a little bit more. Sometimes that's needed, and so we'll have some of that this year. It'll be fun.
All right, I got a question for you. I asked this to Ralph Lawler last summer when I went up north to interview him in Bend, Oregon. Your all-time Clippers starting five.
Whoa.
I know it could pertain more to the guys that you have broadcasted for. It could just stay in that era. But all-time Clippers starting five. It just seems, because we got CP3 back, I got to go all the way back and see what we can come up with here.
I mean, that's tough. You're asking me to go against. You're asking me to decide Sophie's choice, literally. And this isn't because they're Clippers. Literally, against two of the top 5 point guards that have ever done it, in Chris Paul and James Harden. So that's a fun question. Thanks for that. I'll say this.
Hot seat is real, Brian.
It is. I feel it. I'll say this. So, because the way my mind works, I'm nostalgic and I'm very, very appreciative of the past. So whether that's from my personal life or professional life or for the things that I root for. So I'm going to say this, that I feel that James Harden's point guard ability was probably, in terms of scoring the ball, was higher. I'm a pure point guard guy. So it's zero, and I mean zero disrespect to James, but it's going to be Chris, it's going to be Blake, it's going to be DJ as my three. It's the Lob City era, and that's where it all began. Okay, so it began there. We wouldn't be here, in my opinion, if it wasn't for that trio. Let's be honest.
I think everybody would agree with you. Yeah.
Okay, and if you, I get it. If you don't, I'm going to put Kawhi in there. Just the volume. That's just the level that he plays at. And so I'm at a power forward. Is that what I'm at? No, I got Blake at power. I'm at my two guard is what I need. Can I put James Harden as my two guard?
Ooh, you could. He and CP3 obviously have already played together, not as Clippers, but I think that's possible.
I'm going to go out of the box and do something instead of that. And I'm going to take a guy that was off the bench his entire time with the Clippers, and I'm going to put him in my starting five because I love him. And his name is Jamal Crawford. That is my all-time favorite. Like all those guys, I had so much fun during that stretch of time. It was great. I might be missing somebody. I don't think so. Those guys from a nostalgic standpoint, appreciation standpoint, or just connection standpoint are always in my heart, and I'm just super favorites of mine.
All right, I want to shout out a new broadcaster with the team who's come on Clippers Talk a lot this season. How was it working with Lauren Rosen for the first year?
Unbelievable. So she has a tough job. Being a sideline reporter is not easy, and the way I look at that sideline spot is, what are you bringing? I don't want you to read the game notes and say, hey, we're at altitude in Denver and it's awful hard. I talked to somebody about playing at altitude. Like, that's a fine report some point in time. Lauren brought different angles to things. And one thing that really stood out to me was, because she worked in Philadelphia for a while before she came here. And we went to Denver. It was her first time with the Clippers, and I think it was the first time I met her was in Denver. We were on the road. Season had already begun. And I've known DJ since he was a teenager, DeAndre Jordan. He's playing for Denver. And DJ comes over and gives her a big hug first. And I'm like, what? And I'm like, trying to think about like the connection.
Don't you know I got you in my top 5 all-time Clippers?
You know what? I got to make an amendment. It's Elton Brand now. You're out. So, and I'm like, man, and I'm like, okay, DeAndre was in Philly for like 2 months. And the point I'm making is that the best sideline reporters create relationships with players that are like, you get information. Christina Pink is one of the best to do it. Yeah. And when I saw DeAndre come over, and then the next day we were in Golden State and Buddy Hield came over, and they were talking for 5 minutes. And it just let me know that she's great around players. Like, she knows what she's talking about, because I've seen the opposite, where a sideline reporter doesn't know what they're talking about, and you will lose that player. You will never get him back. It's gone forever. They will not respect if you ask silly questions, you're out. And she brings her own stuff. She has very good basketball opinions. And she's just really a fun person to hang out with. So 10 out of 10 for Lauren. Bright future in this business of ours. And I hope it's with the Clippers for a long time.
Appreciate you, Lauren. Great addition to the team this season. All right. I'm going to get out of here with you, but give you one last question. We're going off the grid a little bit here, as we're prone to do. Best thing you've seen this summer, movie or television show, or both, that you can recommend to Clipper Nation?
Wow.
And don't say, I watched Killing of a Sacred Deer for a second time, Adam.
I didn't like the fonts on it, Adam, so I've turned it. That's an inside joke. That Adam's a real snob. Let me see here. Let me check my phone.
Yeah, go through the queue. Go through
I can't remember what it was.
History.
I watched Friends and Neighbors, John Hamm. Fun. It's good.
Okay.
I'm in the middle of watching The Leftovers. I just started season 3. Justin Theroux. It's interesting. I don't know if it all comes together the way I thought it could.
Was that an HBO show?
It was an HBO show.
Okay, yeah.
I just finished Adolescence, which is extremely well done, but
wow,
a brutal. It's acting in 10 out of 10. The storytelling, 10 out of 10. It is, but it is a hard watch. It is
The
hard.
cinematography, 11 out of 10. They do it all in one shot with everything. It's unbelievable.
Yep. It was really cool.
No, that was great. That was a good one. Okay.
I'm missing a big one. One that I just was like on cloud nine about.
Don't say Happy Gilmore too.
I didn't see. I'm a golf purist. I would not watch Happy Gilmore. I wouldn't do it. I could not do it. I'm sorry.
I think it's the one Adam Sandler movie that even if you don't like Adam Sandler, you would like this movie.
I'm an SNL guy, so I like Adam Sandler.
Okay.
But I don't love the movie characters that he plays. Is that bad?
Because he's like extending out a character that was only 5 minutes on SNL and now doing it for 2 hours, like kind of, with the funny voices. I
see Jazz XNC, The Studio. That was it. That was the one that I was loving. It's amazing. Okay. Oh, did you not watch it?
I haven't seen it. What's it on?
Might be an Apple TV one.
You're going to have to hand over the password.
Oh, it is really, there's a character on there. I can't remember. I watched it back in April, May, June, maybe. And it is Seth Rogen. Seth Rogen is good. He has an assistant, or he has another agent that works. Oh, he's great. It's a real character. Ron Howard has an incredible episode. My favorite genre of movie is films that are about films and more in like the humor side of it. Like, I think it's called State and Maine is another good one that came out about 25 years ago. Alec Baldwin, Sarah Jessica Parker. The Studio. Adam, come on, guy. I thought you were up on this.
Look, I'm an Android guy, so when I hear something is on Apple, I'm like, what am I going to do here? What am I doing?
We did watch Stick with Owen, as again, I'm a golf guy.
My best friend who had a song featured at the end of an episode 4.
I will tell you.
I always use him at the end of episodes on Clippers Talk on the radio side. He was featured. His song was in that show.
I will tell you this. I made notes every time I would listen. I'm like, man, they're very creative with the music that they're putting on this show, because they take sometimes real music and they change just the whole composure of it. I will say Stick was good. It's lighthearted. But Owen Wilson was really good. He's Owen Wilson, but he's really good. And it was good. I'd watch it. It's lighthearted. You're not gonna be like, oh my God, I can't wait to the next episode.
So wait, you're good with golf stuff if they take it somewhat seriously?
Yeah.
So you don't even like Caddyshack?
Disagree on that. That was not meant. Well, I did like Caddyshack. Some guy's not running up with a stupid hockey stick and hitting a ball 500 yards in the air. Stop it. Stop it, Adam. I'm not gonna do that.
You have no idea how much worse it gets in Happy Gilmore 2. Thank goodness you avoided that.
I have followed your plight with that, and
well, you know me, overly critical a-hole. I couldn't help myself.
That's my favorite part of you, Adam. Well, what did you watch? Have you watched anything that is worth value that anybody would actually want to watch? It's not some German documentary or.
Okay. There's a show that recently dropped onto Netflix that was on Stars or somewhere else before that I actually liked, and it's called Hightown. And while it is unbelievable how the jingle and the intro song for the show doesn't fit the show at all, it's very lighthearted and cute. And then the show's really dark and heavy, and it involves drug deals and strip clubs and stuff. It's more adult content. It's on Netflix now, all 3 seasons. And I haven't even seen season 3 because I lost the Stars password. So I'm excited to get to rewatch the show and check that out and get to complete it now. But Hightown on Netflix is something that's worth watching for sure.
Okay. While I respect your intellect on these, sometimes I have to kind of take them with a grain of salt, because some of these recommendations you've given Adam are like, what am I doing? It's a good way to put it. It's a good way to put it. I'm looking to see Superman. I haven't seen it yet. I like James Gunn a lot. No, it's mid.
Okay. If you like James Gunn a lot and you enjoy Guardians of the Galaxy, you're going to like it.
I like the way he looks. I like the music that he plays. I like that kind of stuff. The way he.
Some Superman traditionalists didn't like it because it's so funny at times. Like, it's so just slapstick, and it's funny. It's legit.
I don't like that. I don't like hearing that.
Well, you know how Guardians is. It's really goofy. It's irreverent. It's kind of like it's the exact same thing.
All right, I'm gonna go see it.
It ain't Christopher Reeves. It ain't Richard Donner's Superman. But you'll probably enjoy it.
I will.
I don't know about the rewatchability, but everything else is pretty fun. All right. He is Brian Sieman. Major rewatchability with this episode and with any Clippers game that he calls. So you pick up on all the little nuggets that he throws in. You got to watch it twice, actually, on FanDuel TV with Brian Sieman and either Jim Jackson or Mike Fratello, the czar. Brian, thanks for doing this here. Annual tradition here on Clippers Talk, off-season edition. Joining me here. I appreciate it, my friend.
Anytime, my friend. Be well.
Be good. There he goes, Brian Sieman, your voice of the Clippers. Did we deliver? I felt like it. Thought it was a pretty good show. The only thing I didn't like was the framing here because I got this new background and it put us over the background instead of both inside it here. So I got to work on that, technical stuff. Love you all. We'll talk to you maybe tomorrow if there's a schedule release. I ain't missing it here on Clippers Talk with a live for you.